somewhere. It's Steve Braithwaite. Good morning, Steve. How are you?
Hello, how are you?
I'm great.
It's
So which is it? Completely
Well,
stupid or
I'm well, the stupidest man in the world. I think that was decided years ago, and I'm having to live up to being the stupidest man in the world. But it's going to be a bit of fun.
I,
I've been
I
watching your show. By the way, very professional. I think your show is extremely professional. I'm very impressed.
Oh, thank you,
And
Steve.
you were asking why I wanted to do this, and I decided a few years ago that I just want to live a life of whimsy. And there's nothing more whimsical than banana. So I thought, why not build a huge banana and drive it around the world?
you might start a brand new trend here because for several decades, if there was anything special or unusual going on, whether it's the airline industry or the Pentagon, it was always called the skunk works. But you've started a new phrase. It's going to be the banana works.
That suits me.
Well, now you're going to drive this around the world. I've been saying in promoting this over the last couple of days that it was across the country, but you're actually going around the world with this, aren't you, Steve?
Right. A few years ago, I did a silly thing. I rode a
No.
motorcycle all across India. And the reason I say it was a silly thing is because every day since then, I have been pining for that dusty third world road. You can't do something like that and not be changed by it. And my brother, who's a traveler, I mean, he's just backpacked everywhere. I called him up one day and I said, what do we do an RTW? And he knew exactly what I was talking about. It stands for round the world. It's like the holy grail for travelers, where you travel. You start at point A, you circle the globe, and arrive back at point A. And
Right.
we started throwing out ideas, figuring we'd just use public transport, buses and trains, and just local transport. Then I happened to be standing at a gas station. Now, I've always been into building cars,
Uh-huh.
and there's a technique for building something unusual, which we'll get to in a bit. But I was standing in a gas station, and I saw this bowl of fruit, and there was a banana there. And I'd never really paid attention to bananas before. And I noticed that the front bananas on the bunch actually run very straight. And I'm looking at this from every angle thinking, I could build a car this shape. The engine would go there, the passengers, the wheel. I could build a car. And not realizing, I was so into studying this banana. The line in front of me had gone, and the lady behind me had to prod me in the shoulder to make me realize it's my turn to pay for gas. So I called my brother, and I said, right, this is what we're going to do. He says, I'm listening. I said, we're going to build a huge banana car and drive that around the world. He said, I'm in. And that's what we've been doing.
Now, how do you hop the pond?
Well, there's going to be two oceans, although for some reason my brother wants to make it three. We're going to drive to New York and put the banana on what's called a ro-ro, R-O-R-O, roll on, roll off. And we'll then ship it over just regular boat to Southampton in England, drive it around England for a week or so, and then take the Channel into France.
Right.
And from there, it's overland all the way to the Pacific. And then we'll get it containered up, shipped to Los Angeles, fly over and meet it, and drive back to wherever our start point is. For some reason, my brother, I don't know why, but he's really got this hankering to cross the Caspian Sea. So that would take us on a more southerly route down through Turkey.
Uh-huh.
And I think it's because it's the old Silk Trail, and he kind of finds that somewhat romantic traveling the old Silk Trail.
Now, is there anything, are there any regulations that you run into, registrations that you have, certain permissions you need to get as you go from country to country?
Yeah, well, yes and no. I think the countries we're going to be going through, I don't believe so, but that's what we're double-checking right now. But if there is, you have to get what's called the carnet de passage, and it just gets abbreviated to carnet, and it's like a passport for a car. And if ever you want to drive a vehicle into another country, what the other country is scared of is that you're importing vehicles and selling them,
Right.
and they don't get the tax. So what a carnet does is you post bond in your home country that, and this bond has to be a certain amount of money. Sometimes it's twice. It depends on the particular country's regulations. Sometimes twice, sometimes three times the value of the vehicle, or the value of the tax of that vehicle.
Right.
And then if for some reason you drive it into a country but don't drive it out, then that carnet comes due, and that country's government gets that money.
Right.
That's pretty simple.
Yeah, I've run into that a little bit when I was playing music and would travel into Canada, paying the the duty as if it were being sold there, and then collecting it back, when I returned with the stuff.
Okay.
So it's that same sort of thing. I understand what you mean by that. I hadn't heard that phrase before, but now, have you built cars before, Stephen?
I've built hot rods for a few years. I've been mostly in my time in America living in Michigan, and most of that time actually in Linden. And for a few years, I was driving a 1930 Model A coupe. It was my only car. Now, we all know what Michigan weather is like.
Right.
For 3.5 years, this was my only vehicle, a 1930 Model A. Now, obviously, it had a late model Chevy engine, but I had one tiny little windshield wiper and no fenders. I drove it all year.
Oh, nice. That's fun.
I actually got followed. I got followed home by the police one night during a snowstorm, and I was working in nightclubs, and I was leaving this nightclub in Flint, Michigan, driving back to Grand Blanc at the time, and this police car was following me, and now I've got no fenders. I'm throwing up rooster tails of snow and ice that I could hear hitting the hood of the police car. I could hear it landing on their hood. They followed me all the way home. When I pulled up at my apartment, they wanted to see my documents, and I showed them. They checked me. They realized that I was the registered owner, and they let me go. And I said, so what was all that about then? They said, we figured the only person driving a car like this on a night like this is someone that had just stolen it.
Well, they had to be surprised when you had the documentation for it.
Right. It's not something you see on the road in the middle of winter, I must say.
Steve, when did you come to the States?
1986.
And how come?
American Graffiti. Remember that movie?
Yeah.
I saw that film and thought, I want to live in that country and build hot rod cars, and that was the impetus. That was why I came over.
And so here you are, all these years later, building the big banana car.
Yeah.
Not exactly the same dream, but along the same lines, I'm guessing.
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of making this banana car look somewhat hot rod-ish. I mean, it's got real hot rod headlamps, but you can't avoid the fact that it's an enormous banana.
I suppose you've heard all the puns about peeling out and all that sort of stuff.
Oh yeah.
Now we saw the little.
The only thing I don't want, and I'm doing everything I can to make sure this happens, is I end up with banana flambe.
That would be bad. That would be bad. Bananas Foster right there on the freeway. Now we watched a little clip from CNN that was talking about the construction of the car and the project and so on. What other kind of attention have you gotten about this project so far?
All kinds. We've been interviewed for some TV stations and radio stations in Wisconsin. I just happened to do a search for banana car on YouTube, and I found it's been covered by a TV station in North Carolina, I think. We've had interest from California. I'll tell you one thing interesting that happened is I guess the company that produces Anthony Bourdain's No Reservations, it's on the Travel Channel, they saw the CNN piece, and they contacted my brother and I, and we went and met with them in New York, and they're thinking about turning it into a TV show. Now, I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but just the fact they were interested was kind of fun.
Oh, that could be fun. Watch a couple of characters driving around the world in a big banana. When do you think you're going to be able to launch?
It's been delayed, and I mean, it's like everything. You have a date you're shooting for, and it just never happens. We bought a brand new transmission online, and I'm waiting for it. I was waiting for it, and it just never arrived. And luckily, I had that company refund my money, and so I bought another transmission yesterday, and we're just waiting for that to come now. I'm still hoping. Well, because it's Pennsylvania, they have some funny laws, and I found out recently that it's when I come to register it, it's going to take at least 5 to 8 weeks for that to work its way through the Pennsylvania government,
Oh,
whatever.
my goodness.
So that's going to delay it a bit, but we're still shooting for this summer.
Is there a climate concern about taking this at a certain time of year versus another time of year? How long will it take
yeah, very much so. It's going to be an open-air vehicle. It'll be one step above riding around the world on a motorcycle. When it rains, we're going to get wet. So you'll see us parked under a lot of bridges, I'm sure.
So it'll be like
what we're going to do is...
Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Oh, we could take any route we want, and if it's later in the year, then the more southerly route we take, the closer to the equator, the better it's going to be. And then when we arrive back in America, I mean, if we arrive back in America sort of the end of... the journey should only take about 3 months, maybe 4. If we arrive back in America and it's the end of fall, winter, then we'll just come across the southern states.
Of course.
And then drive north back to where our starting is.
Now, there's no corporate sponsorship for this? This isn't a Chiquita thing. This is just you and your
Just
brother,
me and my brother
driving a banana around the world. Has there been any talk of like Guinness Book qualification or anything?
The first people to drive around the world in a banana, in a piece of fruit. No, not Guinness. We're pretty sure that we can self-fund this. So it's been suggested that we talk to Chiquita and have them sponsor us, but I just don't want some big corporation dictating rules.
Right.
We're paying for this ourselves and pretty much through selling T-shirts. Now, we're also trying to raise money for DVT awareness. That's deep vein thrombosis. And it's a blood clot that afflicted our mother. Not many people know too much about DVT, and so we're hoping to raise money to raise awareness with that.
Now, I mean, that makes me wonder. Well, it's an opportunity, I guess, to make sure that people know where they can find out more, because you have these T-shirts and other things for sale on your website, which is
BigBananaCar.com.
Is it say again? You broke up a little bit, Steve.
It's BigBananaCar.com.
Okay.
If you just Google banana car, our website comes up first.
Okay.
So apparently we're the only people doing this.
I don't know if I'm shocked by that or not. But I want to make sure, and we'll put that up on the when we post this. We'll make sure and put that website up there so people know where to go, so they can look at some of the. Are you going to have other banana merch?
We actually have a Cafe Press site, and you can buy all sorts of stuff through the Cafe Press site. Like, everything from T-shirts to clocks to mugs, and that's all at BigBananaCar.com.
Yeah,
and half the money we make is going to go into the gas tank for the trip, and the other half is going to go towards DVT awareness.
That's great. What kind of expenses do you incur aside from petrol, as you would maybe say?
The two big expenses are crossing the oceans, the Atlantic and the Pacific, and then maybe the Caspian Sea. And then China. All the countries, because of the dissolution of the Iron Curtain, you can drive all across Eastern Europe now. It's not a problem. China is a problem. Remember the Olympics, when all the journalists there were talking about their minders, how they had a minder traveling with them? Well, we can cross China, but we have to have a state-approved guide traveling with us at all times. And he would meet us at the Kazakhstan border, or whatever border we come into China at, and be with us constantly until we leave. And that's quite a bit of money.
Now, I haven't traveled much in Europe by car. Are gas stations readily available, or will you have to carry fuel with you in some places?
That's a very good question. Western Europe's fine. Eastern Europe should be fine. It's when we sort of head into Asia. we used the 1993 F-150 pickup truck as the donor vehicle, and that had two gas tanks, the front gas tank and the rear gas tank, and we replaced the rear gas tank, which I think was, I'm not sure, 19 gallons or something, I can't remember, but we replaced that with one from a Ford Bronco, which was 33 gallons. So I've estimated if we're getting 15 miles per gallon, our range is going to be about 800 miles.
Wow, that's
full
good.
Tanks.
That's good.
So yeah, I'm hoping we can. But oh boy, you can't trust gas stations when you get into the third world. We would buy in India when we were riding the motorcycles in India. I had a transparent jug, 5-gallon jug with me, and we would pump. Yeah, and I've marked it 1 gallon, 2 gallon, 3 gallons. We would pump gas from the gas pump into that transparent jug. We'd see the $5, the 5 gallons. We then pour that into our gas tanks, and almost every single time, when we knew we had put 5 gallons into that jug, and we looked at the gas pump, it would say 8 gallons, 9 gallons, 10 gallons. So you just can't trust them.
Huh. Well, that's that would be a concern. So, but 800 miles, you think, or roughly, is going to get you to the next gas station for sure.
I'm hoping, although I got to secretly admit, now don't tell anyone this, because we're filming the whole thing. It would be kind of fun if at some point we do run out of gasoline and have to get pulled down the road by 2 water buffalo. I think that big banana.
I like it.
That would make make a fun scene, a fun shot.
Yeah, it really would. That would be great. Now, I want to ask you, after being in this country for as long as you have, do you still keep track of news and stuff in Great Britain?
Not so much now. I used to, avidly, but...
Have you followed the election that has gone on in the last day or so?
A little bit, but probably no more than your average American.
Uh-huh.
There's just so much American politics that fills my head. I just don't have much more room now for Britain.
Well, American politics is full time. You know, the British election was squeezed into what, 3 weeks?
There's a law in Britain that you're not allowed, unless this has changed in the 25 years that I've been here, you are not allowed. It is illegal to do any campaigning 6 weeks or more before an election. And in America, it's 4 years before an election you pretty much start campaigning.
Yeah, and that's for 2-year terms.
Right, yeah.
Oh, Steve, it was really it's really great of you to spend time with us, and I hope we'll get a chance to talk more about this project as it goes on. In fact, maybe we could get you to call in from the road sometime. That would be kind of fun. That'd
be fantastic.
What is the material that you're going to use for the final shell?
What we did was we took all the sheet metal off of the F-150 pickup truck. That left a nice slender frame. Mm-hmm. We made a rebar skeleton of a banana. We're then covering that in chicken wire, and it's half covered right now. We'll then spray it with urethane foam, sculpt a nice banana shape, and then fiberglass on top of that. So we're kind of fiberglassing in reverse, really.
Okay.
It's about the only way to do it.
Yeah, I wondered how you were gonna craft the actual appearance on the outside, because all of the pictures we're seeing are in progress, and it's all sort of framework and so on.
But I am amazed that I've got already so much interest in this project, and it's not on the road. It's still being built. It's kind of encouraging.
Oh yeah, I think you're gonna turn a lot of heads. I think you're gonna get a lot of attention from this, Steve. Is that one of the goals? Is to see just how big a splash you can make?
Of course, and we make no bones about that.
Right.
My brother is very concerned that people realize that even though we want to raise money for DVT, we're also doing it just to have a blast. I mean, it's the sort of thing that we'll be invited for dinner parties for the rest of our lives to discuss the big banana car trip around the world. At least that's what we're hoping, because we're always hungry.
Yeah, well, that's good.
But it should be a bit of fun, and we're doing this on the cheap. We really are, because we're self-funding. We are not.
Sure.
Everyone seems to think that we must have huge pockets, deep pockets, but not at all. In fact, when I was riding the motorcycle across India, I sat down and worked out that it was costing me $100 a week for everything. That's all the meals, hotels, everything, drinks, and I was spending more than I needed to because I was doing a lot of touristy stuff as well. So we're hoping that as soon as we leave America and Western Europe, that the prices for everything are really going to go down, and that's why we'll be able to afford it. And we're going to use couchsurfing.com as much as possible.
Right. Now, Steve, I know you're still early in this project, but any thoughts or considerations to future food mobiles?
A big ear of sweet corn.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, that's more of a conversion, though, isn't it?
Well, right, but I'm not going to...
But you know, Steve,
once the banana car's built, that's it. But for the banana car, but I do hope to build other weird, bizarre vehicles, and a big ear of sweet corn would be just fun. Just because they'd be sculpting each one of those kernels of corn, it's just going to be a bit of fun.
That does sound like fun. And then you'll have to run the whole thing, of course, on ethanol.
Right, yeah. That's one thing I'm beginning to feel a bit guilty about, is because everybody keeps asking me, how are you going to power the banana? Well, it's a V8 engine. And in this day and age, people expect it to be something unusual, and I just don't know what there is. I don't think there is anything. I mean, unless one of the motor companies in Detroit happen to be listening to this right now and have some brand new experimental engine they would love to put in our banana car, it's just going to be the regular V8.
Well, the battery thing, but then you'd have the whole voltage issue when you were trying to charge it up in other places.
You would have to get one of those multi-adapters.
The converter that tourists carry with them.
The guy one time that I met was building a hydrogen engine, and I said, "Well," and he was really trying to convince me to put a hydrogen engine in this, and I'm like, "Okay, but what do I do for fuel?" And he said, "Well, you'd be crossing rivers, right?" Yeah. He said, "We just throw a hose in the river," and I was a little bit skeptical that it would be that easy.
Yeah. Yeah, wouldn't that? I don't know. I'm just getting flashbacks from the Hindenburg when you start talking about that, and you talk about banana flambe. Well,
I'll tell you one thing we do want to do. When the vehicle gets finished, we want to auction our start point on eBay, and again, half of that money will go to DVT awareness. So we're hoping that there's someone in America somewhere that has a business they'd like to promote and have us come to their location, because it would be the start point and the finish point. Well,
let's make sure that you get that information to us, because I would like to pass that along. I'm sure that there are some big bananas here in Flint that would like to see it launch from here.
I would like Michigan to be the start location, just because I've spent so many of my years in Michigan. And if we can also have as many people as possible join the Facebook page, if they just go to our website, bigbananacar.com, down the bottom of each page is a link to the Facebook page, and we'd like to get as many people to become fans of the Big Banana Car page on Facebook as we can.
And we'll put a link to it on our Facebook page as well. Hopefully that will steer a few your way.
Sounds brilliant. Thank you very much.
And Steve, thank you for sharing time with us in the story, and I'm sure we're going to talk about this some more, because this is going to be a fun one to follow.